friends, welcome back. It's Dory Trishani. Thanks for being with me on my channel. I'm so excited to have you here with me. I hope that what you guys hear from me is insightful, and I would love to hear your comments. So when you're watching these videos, if it brings something up for you, please drop a comment in the section below so that I can hear how this works for you, how you perceive it. Maybe I need to clarify things. We can work together. So let's have that conversation. Today's video is going to be on emotional deposits. Emotional deposits are so dear to me. And when we think about emotional deposits, I like to think about an ATM machine. It's kind of like when you go to the ATM machine to make a deposit in your bank account, you put in a sum of money and you know that it's going to create some kind of a deposit inside. And then the next day you make another deposit and then another one and another one. And before you know it, you see your account getting full. That's so wonderful. And our kids are the same. We want to make emotional deposits. And by the way, it's not just our kids. It's any relationship that you have with another human being that you care about, you want to make deposits in that relationship. Because when you make deposits in that relationship, then what actually is happening is that that person feels seen, feels valued, feels heard, feels understood, feels acknowledged. And that's important. That means we're making a deposit. And the more you make deposits in a relationship, the more you create a cushion inside of emotional well-being. And so think about that with our children. We want to make sure that we're creating lots of different emotional deposits throughout the day. So let's get clear. What is an emotional deposit and what is it not? Maybe we'll start with what is it not, okay? So emotional deposits are not about proximity. So what does that mean? That means it's Saturday, we're all home, we spend the whole day together. I'm super busy because we have company coming and I want to clean up the house and it's the day that I have off so I can maybe do some laundry. And so I have a lot of things on my list. We're all together, all the kids are home, everybody's home. And so what? It should be a great day for us because we're all together. That doesn't work. Emotional deposits are not about spending time together, okay? It's not about the proximity because I can have you in proximity with me and not be paying any specific undivided attention towards you. And so then you don't perceive me as even having seen you all day, even though we've been together and maybe we even ate meals together and we did things together, but you don't perceive that as a deposit as a child. Why? Because the intention was not there, but we'll get into more of that later. So it's not about proximity. It's not about length of time or duration, okay? So we, have 4 hours together today. That does not ensure that what you're doing is going to be a deposit. It's not about time and it's not about proximity and it's not about the thing itself. So, I buy my kids things all the time. That's not a deposit. It's not about the thing, right? I went out and I bought a gift and I gave it to my child because he really wanted it. That's not a deposit necessarily because there are certain things that make a deposit an actual emotional deposit. So what are those things that make a deposit an emotional deposit? One is intention. If you don't put intention on what you're doing, you're just doing stuff. You're just, doing stuff. And hopefully it's good enough. It doesn't work that way. You need to be intentional. If you want your children to feel seen, heard, understood, valued, acknowledged, you need to put intention around those moments, okay? So when I talk about intention, that's, in my opinion, this is a whole topic in and of itself, right? What is our intention? Well, how do we approach situations? We obviously in this situation want to approach making a deposit to our child from the place of love. So we're doing it from a place of love and we are fueling our child with love. And that enables our child to feel that as a deposit, to experience that connection as a deposit, okay? So you want to make sure that you're being intentional. You want to make sure that your child is experiencing, feeling seen, heard, valued, understood, acknowledged, loved. Those are ways that children experience deposits. So I remember there was a certain point actually with my son who was much older. He's now 15. When he started his teenage years, he's also an enduro racer. So he rides his bike. It's called enduro racing, which means he takes a mountain bike and rides down the mountains super fast in between the trees. Very, very scary for me as a mom. But that was his passion, or that is his passion. So when he started getting a bit older and started really getting into this passion, all he wanted to do was ride his bike. So he'd come home from school, and when he was younger and didn't have this passion, when he would come home from school, we had what was called a hug on the couch. So a hug on the couch, it was like we'd stick the key in the door, we'd look at each other outside the door, getting ready for this big emotional deposit that was going to happen when we walked through the door. I'd turn the key, we'd all run for the couch and be like, hug on the couch. And we would all jump on each other and hug each other. And that was like a few seconds, minutes before then everybody would disperse and go about their things. So he got older, he didn't want to do that anymore. I could cry. But he didn't want to do that anymore. So I had to start thinking of other ways to make deposits. It's like, wait, now he's older. How do I make these deposits? He doesn't want to be smooched. He doesn't want to be picked up and held. Not that I could do that with him, he's so big. But how can I make an emotional deposit with him? And he would say to me, Mom, can you take me to the bike park? And I would be like, Nathaniel, can you come sit on the couch next to me? I want to like give you a hug and hear about your day. And he'd be like, oh, no. Can you take me to the bike park, Mom? And I would be like, what? But we didn't have any time together. Like, come, I want to like be with you and I want to spend time with you and I want to. He just didn't want to have it. It was not his idea of an emotional deposit. And that's another thing with these deposits. It's not just about what I want, because I was like dying for that. All I wanted to do was to be able to connect with him, but he didn't want that. So even if I did, it was not perceived as a deposit. It was an annoyance to him. So then now what do I do? And I remember I was stumped for a good few days. I was thinking about this, like, what am I going to do now? How can I connect with him? And then I realized taking him to the bike park was going to be an emotional deposit. The time in the car was going to be my time with him. That's what I get now that he's older, and that's going to have to be good enough for me and for him. For him, for sure, it was good enough because he was also getting what he wanted. But for me, it was good enough because I had those 15 minutes it took me to get to the bike park to be able to connect with him and speak to him and hear about his day. And that was good enough. And then when I would drop him off, he'd have this huge smile on his face, like, Mom, thanks so much. See you later. And he was happy about being at the bike park, but he also perceived me as caring for him, seeing him, hearing him, because he wants to go to the bike park so I can hear what he wants and I can honor him and I can value his wishes. So that became the emotional deposit. Okay, so now I realize most of you listening to me don't have kids who are 15, or maybe also have little babies and much younger kids. So we can talk about what an emotional deposit looks like for younger kids. But I want to go back a bit because we talked about the fact that an emotional deposit allows our children to feel seen, heard, understood, valued, acknowledged. But it's also, another point that's super important, is that it's also always our responsibility. Okay, so it's never my child's responsibility to make that deposit. So if my child's tantruming and I really want to give them a hug and they don't want to have it because they're just not in their right mind in the moment, then it's not okay for me to wait for them to come back to me because it's not their responsibility, ever. Never, ever, 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 ever is it a child's responsibility to make that deposit or to ask for the deposit. It's our responsibility to be skillful enough to know that we need to make those deposits. So it's always the parent's responsibility, regardless of how old they are, of what happened before, of what type of situation you're coming out of. It's still always your responsibility. And I know this very well. My father, who was an amazing man, super, super amazing, really my role model, my pillar, but specifically in being skillful around certain emotional things, he was not so skillful. And I remember he would like kind of just wait for me to come back at him. It'd be like he would leave me and then he would wait and he would say like, when you're ready, you'll come back to me. And it was always my responsibility to go back and connect with him. And that was always so awkward as a child. It was like, why isn't my dad coming to me? Why isn't my dad reaching out to make sure I'm okay or to just give me a hug? Or how come he doesn't do that? And then it would be like, well, I need the connection so badly that I would go do that. But that was off because that's not the natural hierarchy of the way that deposits should be made. The child is never responsible. I don't care how old he is. And this example I'm giving you between me and my father was when I was already probably in my teens, my late teens. So I can imagine what it was like when I was little. I don't remember, but it's always the parent's responsibility, okay? And then the last point I want you to put focus on is to be sensitive to whether or not your child is available to receive the deposit Okay, so if your child's tantruming and you want to go give them a hug and they're thrashing around, it's not the right time. Take a break, give it a few minutes, and then come back, and they might be available then. But be sensitive to whether or not your child is available for those deposits. And you might have an idea of how you're going to make a deposit, meaning you're just going to, hug your child, give them this big smooch, and they don't like to be smothered. So then they're not available for that deposit. So you can't make the deposit in that way with that child. So different strokes for different folks, guys. Pay attention to who your child is, what they appreciate, what they don't like, what sets them off, and give them something that will fuel them, not something that you think should fuel them, something that actually fuels them when they're ready. So if they're not ready, wait, okay? And then don't forget to come back, because then it won't be so good. And the last thing I want you to focus on, guys, is that there are no distractions when you're making emotional deposits, because then you don't give your child your undivided attention, you're distracted. So I can't give my child an emotional deposit if I'm on my phone. And if I have a chance to connect with my child, but I'm distracted because somebody is sitting next to me and I'm talking to them, that's not an emotional deposit. So for those of you who say to me sometimes, well, I totally give emotional deposits. My child loves to go to the park and we go together. Well, who else are you with? Are you with a girlfriend? Are you with another family? And then your child doesn't get any time with you because you're busy talking? Think about what your child experiences. It needs to be intentionally fueling your child. That's what an emotional deposit is. So no distractions when you're doing it. And again, it's not about proximity or it's not about length of time. So you don't have to now spend 3 hours at the zoo. You can just take your child to the park and make sure that while you're at the park, you randomly go to your child wherever they're playing and engage with them and acknowledge them and see if they want you to push them while they're sitting on the swing. Or if it's your baby in a gymboree where they're playing with balls in the ball pit, then you don't want to be talking to the other people in the ball pit. You want to be engaging with your child. Make eye contact and smile. Those are emotional deposits. Okay, so I hope that this shed some insight on how we can better connect with our children. And I just want to invite you, before we end, to my online digital sleep course. In this sleep course, it's got a wealth of information. We really dive in deep around deposits, what that looks like, and how we can better create moments of connection between us and our children, along with many other parenting fundamentals that will be key for you getting your children to sleep, getting them through that transformation, but really better equipping you as a parent to have the fundamentals that you need to be able to stand in that space of being a source of stability for you and your family. And that makes all the difference. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being with me. I'll see you next time.